this web. It's a huge interest among the different stakeholders on this agrivoltaic project. And actually, I from Kadri actually started this agrivoltaic project in 2016. From there on, we are working on this agrivoltaic model, and in several platforms for the last 2-3 years. I did some presentation for outscaling of this system because it is a very successful systems. We can talk about it. So in today's presentation, I do not know what is the background of the participants, but I assume that everybody knows something about this photovoltaics and about this grid connection, and some background on the agriculture also. And if I assume also that by birth of India, we are all connected to agricultural activity at our households from our childhood level, and so it is not a thing that we do not know about the agricultural part, and most of us also know the photovoltaic part also because it is now becoming so much popular. So without wasting time, I will start my presentation, and after the, because it is a short presentation, only 22 slides I have prepared, and within a quick time means around half an hour or 45 minutes, I will speak on this system, and then I want to learn your feedback on this agrivoltaic system, and how much you want to know from this agrivoltaic system. So I think it is okay, Ovimannu. Should I start now my presentation?
Yes, sir. Good to go ahead.
Okay. Is it visible?
Yes, sir, it is. You can full screen it.
It is in full screen now. Is it in full screen?
No, sir. It's slideshow is playing. Can you exit this mode so that it will be full screen?
Now?
Yes, sir. Good to go ahead. Full screen.
Now? Is it
Now,
okay?
now the view has been shrinked. Previous one was full screen.
Okay. Previous one was okay. Okay. So is it okay?
Yes, sir.
So today we will talk about this agrivoltaic system. So before going to the details of this system, first I will explain what is the need of this agrivoltaic system. This agrivoltaic system, sometimes we also called it as solar farming or agri-photovoltaic system. This is just combination of agriculture and photovoltaic generation. But what is the need of this addition of agriculture and photovoltaic generation? Because there are some land, as per the land capability classification, they are called the poor productive land. So in those land, agriculture is a very difficult proposition. So on that land, agrivoltaic system may be successful by installation of the photovoltaic systems. Whereas in some parts or in some lands, environmental hazards for PV generation are there. For example, wind erosion is a severe land degradation process in the arid zone where sunlight is available in plenty. So in those regions, environmental hazards in terms of aeolian hazards or the dust hazard is much more in those areas. So in those cases, photovoltaic generation may be a difficult preposition. So in those cases, agrivoltaic system can be installed. And as we know that both this agriculture and the photovoltaic generation. Both these processes, it requires solar energy resources as the key resources, whereas it also requires some amount of land. For agriculture also we require land. For photovoltaic generation we also need land. And I think you have already know it that for photovoltaic generation, for 500 kilowatt capacity, 1 hectare land is required. Similarly, for agricultural activity also land is required. And again, water is a common natural resources for both these processes, both for agriculture and also for photovoltaic generation. You can ask a question that what is the need of water for photovoltaic generation? If you are living in a dry lands or the arid zone of the country, you most probably experience the dust hazard in your areas. And this dust hazard on the PV panels are creating a lot of disturbances in terms of PV generation. So there is cleaning of PV module is a very regular maintenance operation you have to do so as to get an optimum amount of PV generation from your PV system. So water is also a common natural resources required for photovoltaic PV generation. So we can see there are three main natural resources required both for agriculture and also for photovoltaic based electricity generation. But when we see the efficiency, whenever converting the solar energy to food through photosynthesis, the efficiency is 3 to 4%. Whereas in case of photovoltaic generation, the efficiency is around 12 to 15% on a polycrystalline PV module. Sometimes we are also claiming that it is around 20% or 18%. But if you can assume that the average efficiency is 12 to 15%, so we can see there is a large difference between the efficiency in when we talk about the photovoltaic based electricity generation and photosynthesis process. So obviously the one landowner will choose the photovoltaic process to generate energy rather than investing on the photosynthesis process. Is it true? Because my land is there, 1 hectare land is there, and I know different risk factor to cultivate different types of crops in a very harsh environment. For example, in the arid condition, there is a lot of risk of growing crops because in the arid zone or in the dry lands, there is always uncertainty of rainfall events. And in the rain-fed areas, if rainfall is not there, so we cannot grow anything. So there is a risk. And again, the photosynthesis efficiency is quite low as compared to the photovoltaic process. That's why people of different parts of the world in the arid region or in the dryland region, people are preferring the photovoltaic generation rather than they are abandoning the agricultural activity and converting their agricultural land to the photovoltaic based PV generation because there is a assured income from the PV generation. There is no such risk of the PV generation, but this agriculture process, it generates, just 1 minute, I will take this agricultural activity, it generates food, and food is the basic necessity of every human being. So we cannot exclude the agricultural activity because we will be denied food in future. But we also need energy because without energy, our present lifestyle or present growth of the civilization, for different aspects, energy is also a key important resources. So we cannot exclude one another. We cannot exclude food, we cannot exclude energy. We need both. So that's why food and energy, there is a very good nexus. And with this nexus, water is also coming. So food, water, energy, these are the three main requirements of the future for the human civilization to progress. So what should be our next option? Whether we choose agriculture, we choose photovoltaic, to generate energy, or we should combine these two systems to a single system of agrivoltaic system. Because in agrivoltaic, we can also generate the food, we can also generate the electricity, and we can use this water as a common resources for both agriculture and photovoltaic processes. So this was the main concept based on which we coined or we tried to install the agrivoltaic system at our institute quite 5 years back. So then we have to look, before installing the agrivoltaic system, we have to look the solar resources of your areas. For example, this is a solar energy map of India, which is already available in National Solar Atlas. I have extracted from those atlas this map, and you can see from this map this red region having a high solar energy resource potential. And if we can talk about this Western Rajasthan, means 12 districts of Rajasthan at the west of the country, and also the Gujarat part, this availability of solar radiation is plenty. You can take it about 5.67 to 6 kilowatt hour per meter square per day. So this much of solar energy is available per day in a meter square area in this western part, as compared to this eastern part and the central part of India. And also in Ladakh also, you see these red dots. In Ladakh also, there is a huge amount of solar energy available. And if you see the monthly distribution of the available global horizontal irradiance, which we denote in terms of kilowatt hour per meter square per day, is very much high during the summer months. You can see April, May, it is going to as high as around 7.5 to 7.8. And in the month of winter months, October, November, December, and January, it is around 4 to 5 kilowatt hour per meter square per day. So we can obviously think that our solar photovoltaic generation will be much more higher during the summer period than the winter period, because the solar radiation availability is less in winter months than summer months. But it is not so straightforward, because the availability of the solar radiation is not only the key resources for PV generation. The temperature of the PV module also plays an important role to generate electricity. The optimum temperature to generate the PV electricity from a PV module is 25 degrees centigrade. And if the temperature of this PV module is increased, obviously the output of the PV generation will be decreased. So during the summer months, irrespective of the high amount of this solar radiation available, the generation of this electricity during summer months and winter months is not so different. Because in winter months, although the availability of the solar radiation is much less, but the temperature of the PV module remains at its optimum temperature around 25 or 20 degrees centigrade at most part of the country. So if we see the generation curve of the PV modules, we cannot see so much different in the winter months and the summer months. But obviously, because of the high amount of availability of the solar radiation, some amount of slight difference or slight higher generation will be there in the summer months, but this gap should not be too much. And on an average, we can talk about that from 1 kilowatt system, 4 units of electricity per day can be generated in the western part of the country. 4 unit means 4 kilowatt hour of electricity can be generated per kilowatt system. You remember this factor, 4 unit per kilowatt per day. Then this agrivoltaic system, whether it is only working in India or it is already so much popular in other parts of the world. Actually, this concept was given by a scientist in Germany quite long back, around 20 years back. Goetze, Professor Goetze actually coined this term that whether it is possible to integrate agriculture and photovoltaics together. But it was not implemented in a field condition, but he coined the concept. Later on, Professor Dupraj, he actually started to work on this agrivoltaic system in 2011. Then from Montpellier, France, Professor Maru has been working for a quite long time on this agrivoltaic system. And this is a picture of the agrivoltaic system from Europe, France. And this is a photo of the agrivoltaic system from Heidelberg, Germany. And Professor Schindel and a group of scientists from the Fraunhofer Institute of Energy has been working on this agrivoltaic concept. But their design was quite different from our design, whatever I will present in my next slide. Because you can see here, this is a very high mounting structure. And I hope nobody from us has seen such a PV installation in our country. Because it is a high mounting structure, so we cannot access the PV modules while cleaning is required on these PV modules. But in Europe condition, the dust load in atmosphere is very less, so there is very less requirement of the cleaning of the PV modules. So they do not bother on the cleaning of the PV module. That's why if the mounting structure of their PV installation is quite high, it is not a problem for them. But for us, where dust load is a common phenomena, we have to clean the PV module at a periodic interval. And the schedule for the common PV functionaries is that every week during summer months and once in every 2 weeks in winter months, we have to clean the PV module to get our electricity generation at a rate of around 4 kilowatt hour per kilowatt system per day. Otherwise, we will be run in a loss mode. So this is the agrivoltaics module, agrivoltaics systems installed in other parts of the world. So let us see what was our design. So actually we install the agrivoltaic system with 3 specific designs because we tested different types of design. So this is a single row model, this is double row model, and this is triple row model. What is the difference between these 3 designs? Let's explain. So in this single row design, there is only one row of PV module, and between these 2 array, there is a distance of interspace 2.95 meter. Okay. In case of double row PV module, you can see there are 2 rows of PV module. Okay, and these 2 array difference is 5.55 meter. Why this interspace area is high? Because whenever we are using double row, the height of this mounting structure is increased up to 1.96 meter from 1.20 meter. So obviously, based on the azimuth angle and zenith angle, this design criteria we have calculated, the interspace area will be increased. And if we increase much more height by adjusting 3 modules in a row or in an array, 3 row, first, second, and third, obviously the height of this mounting structure will be increased, and it is 2.56 meter. And in this design, the interspace area will be 8.90 meter. So this is the 3 basic designs we tried to test whether single row model is sufficient, double row model is okay, or triple row model is okay. And we actually installed this system in 3 different blocks: block 1, block 2, and block 3. The main criteria to lay out such a design is that every block area should be of equal size, and the PV installation in these 3 blocks will also be the same. So in block 1, we installed 35 kilowatt. In block 2 also we installed 35 kilowatt, and in block 3 also we installed 35 kilowatt capacity of PV system. And the block size of block 1 and block 2 and block 3 all are same. In the next slide we can see we also changed the design of this PV array as per the conventional system. It is not per the conventional system. In block 1 we actually installed a full density PV array and one is half density PV array, which I am not showing here, but it was there in my field. In block 2, the bottom arrow was full density, but the top arrow it was with 60% density. Why we have adjusted such a design in the agrivoltaic system? Because we know that we will integrate agriculture with the photovoltaic. But for agriculture purpose, as we already said, that photosynthesis is a prerequisite or requirement to produce food. And everybody knows from our school readings or school syllabus that for photosynthesis process, we need photosynthetically active radiation, which is around 400 to 700 micrometer, a nanometer region of the solar energy spectrum. So that much photon or for the solar radiation is required for photosynthesis. So we have to allow the some amount of radiation to penetrate below the PV module. That's why we kept the design of 60% density, so that some amount of radiation will pass through the agrivoltaic system to the underground crops. In the block 3, we tested with a design where the bottom 2 rows with the full density and top row with the 60% density. So this is the basic 3 designs. And this is the layout of the upward agrivoltaic system. You can see that block 1, block 2 and block 3 all are of same size. But the number of rows in case of single row PV module it is 6, in case of double row it is 3, and in case of triple row model it is only 2. But within this 2 array we adjusted 35 kilowatt, within this 3 array we adjusted 35 kilowatt, and with this 6 array we adjusted 35 kilowatt. So our treatment is that design is different, but the PV installation capacity was same across all the system. To make a comparison between the different designs, what is the performance of different crops, what is the microclimates available at different designs. So this was the basic research hypothesis. Then we started to cultivate different types of crops. Again, I will say here that we have actually screened different types of crops for growing in agrivoltaic system. Each and every crop we cannot cultivate or we cannot grow in the agrivoltaic system, because from our design we have already seen that the height of the PV modules from the ground surface, it was only 50 centimeter. So we cannot choose such a crop that the height of this crop is quite high, then it will create shadow on the PV module, and then our PV generation will be affected. So we cannot choose such a crop which is tall in nature. And second requirement was that it should tolerate some amount of shade. And third requirement was there that the water requirement to grow this crop should be as minimum as possible. So this was the basic 3 criteria. It should be tall, it should have a low water requirement, and it should have some amount of shade tolerance. So during the Kharif and Rabi season, we have selected different types of crops and we have tested in the interspace area. From the Kharif experiment, we have found that growth and yield of Vigna radiata, which is Mugbean, was not affected by the shade of PV module, whereas rest 2 are affected. What are the rest? The rest were the cluster bean and the moth bean. These two crops were affected by the shade of the PV module, whereas the moong bean yield and growth was not affected so much by the shade of the PV modules. In case of Rabi crops, we have tried the Plantago ovata, it is called Isabgol, then Cuminum cyminum, it is cumin or jeera. In Hindi, it is called jeera. So these two crops were grown during Rabi crops, but the growth and yield of both these crops are significantly affected by shade of PV module. We have also tried different medicinal crops, because we can see here, this is called Cassia angustifolia, it is Sangpushpi, this is aloe vera. So these two crops were not so much affected in the interspace area over the control area. Then some vegetable crops we also tried beneath the solar PV module. For example, here we can see the spinach or palak we have grown below the PV panel. Apart from spinach, we have also tried amaranthus and other leafy vegetables which are not so much affected by the shade of the PV module. Overall, we can say that the plants which are producing leafy biomass as their yield, they are not so much affected by the PV modules or the agrivoltaic system. But whenever we are trying to produce some grain or fruit, there we are getting a less amount of yield, because obviously the photosynthesis was affected and their allocation or the photosynthesis, the accumulation of the photosynthesis to fruits, it was somewhat affected. But for leafy vegetables or for biomass production, it was not so much affected. And it was clearly visible in terms of aloe vera or in the vegetable crops like spinach and amaranthus. Then another main and interesting component of our agrivoltaic system, which was not visible, I can surely say that it was not existing at any solar PV functionaries at the moment in India, and also not in the other parts of the country or other parts of the world. So this is a very innovative idea we have installed in our agrivoltaic system. Why this water harvesting system was installed? Because we at Kajri were working for the quite few long time, for the last 60 years we were working here at the edit part, and whenever any solar PV functionaries are trying to install a solar PV system here, they always need water, and they always need water for cleaning the wind eroded dust deposited on the solar PV modules. And since everybody knows that arid parts of the country or the desert part of the country is always scarce in water resources, our groundwater resources is quite low, our rainfall resources is quite low, and their variability is quite high. So where from we will get water to clean the PV modules? And there is always a conflict between the solar PV functionaries and the groundwater department. And groundwater department sometimes denies to supply the water just for cleaning the PV module, because in the summer period there is always a shortage in water resources for drinking purposes. People are using water from stored in ponds and talabs or village ponds. So cleaning purpose, supplying the water to a PV functionaries is a very challenging task. So keeping in mind this background, we thought that why not harvest the water from the top of the PV module, because it is a totally impervious surface. Whatever raindrops will fall on the PV modules, it can be collected to a common tank, and that water may be recycled again and again to clean the PV module. So that was our main idea. So based on that idea, we installed a channel or MSC channel at the bottom of the PV array. So whatever rainfall drops, it may be around the annual rainfall is 360 mm in Jodhpur. So all this raindrop will collect here, and this rain then will be carried through the conveying pipes, which is laid underground and it is connected to a common channel, which is further connected to a large water tank. And interestingly, this water, whenever around 200 or 250 mm rainfall we recorded, we collected around 1 lakh liter of water in our water tank, and that was sufficient to clean the PV module again through a solar pumping system with a hose pipe. So it was a feasible solution to clean the PV module, and we do not have to buy water from outside sources to clean my PV module. And again, this water, if it is excess, then it can be used for supplemental irrigation to crops. I cannot say that whatever water we harvest from these PV modules, it is sufficient to cultivate crops. I am not guaranteeing that every drop of water will be recycled to irrigate the crop, because it is not possible to irrigate the all crops grown in those areas, because it can provide only 40 mm irrigation to the crops. So we can say that life-saving irrigation or 1 or 2, 3 irrigations requirement of these crops can be made out from the stored water in the tank. But the water stored in the tank can be recycled to clean the PV module, because whenever also we will clean this PV module, this water again will be collected and again it will go to the tank again. So maybe some loss at each operation will be there, some amount of loss will be there, around 10% loss if we can account. So with that 10% loss, we estimated or we calculated that it is possible to recycle that water throughout the year. So this is the innovative designs we made in our agrivoltaic system. So I will show some of the photographs of our agrivoltaic system for the last 3-4 years. You can see this water conveying gutter system, or we can conveying channels. So these pipes are going to the underground PV channel network. Then some vegetable crops grown in the interspace area. You can see the huge growth of aloe vera and some vegetable crops at the interspace area. And this is the water harvesting tank, which underground water harvesting tank. So no evaporation loss will be there. So that water is recycled. And here you can see the construction of the water harvesting tank. And here the installation of this channel for collecting the water to the tank. And it is a cleaning operations of the PV modules by recycling the water. Again, some pictures of the different crops, field crops. Here we can see the growth of spinach. Here brinjal crops grown in the interspace area, and here some vegetable crops grown at the bottom. And here the double row PV module with shades and the germinated crops at the interspace area as well as the below panel area. And this was interaction with the different stakeholders, because a lot of visitors has already visited in our agrivoltaic system, and they have actually replicated this system in their field also. And this is the field view of different designs, and this is the top view of our agrivoltaic system. And this is the single row PV module with half density and full density, and with chili as the intercrop or interspace areas, what are the different crops are grown. And you can see also that the interspace area in the triple row PV module, it is quite big. So even tractors can do the plowing operations in between the interspace area. And this is the actually inverter of the system, which is installed at the middle of this second block, and with the drip irrigation or drip systems are there to irrigate the crops during the winter season. And this is the chickpea crops. So out of this, all these experiments we conducted, last we can synthesize that the best model we found was the double row model. So this double row model with the first row with full density and second row with the 60% PP density is the best model we found as per the convenience of different operations or agriculture operations, and also the generation of the PV energy. And the best crop we found in the interspace area during Kharif season as the mukbin, and Rabi season is the isabul. And below PV area, we found the Rabi season, the spinach and amaranthus are the best crops to grow in this agrivoltaic system. So this is the model we now try to replicate outside the Kajri system. So later on, I will explain the outscaling part and the different agrivoltaics models operational in the country itself. So this is a peculiar graph or chart I can say. This is actually daily light integral, the mole of photons per meter square per day. What is the amount of energy available at different portions of this PV designs? You can see this red colored portion, the availability of the DLI is 0 to 5, and in this interspace area, the green and the yellow portion, it is around 15 to 25. So as per the crop requirement, if it is less than 10 or 5, we cannot grow a crop which is actually producing some fruit. Fruit means grain or fruit. It cannot produce fruit or grain on this portion of light, because the light requirement was very less. So at these areas, we recommend always a leafy vegetables or leafy crops. We cannot grow mukbin at the top of the or bottom of the PV module. So by modeling this DLI part, we can always select that which type of crops I should grow in my PV system. And this is a very dynamic system. This is actually the DLI availability calculated on winter solstice day. Winter solstice means 22nd December. And on that day, in northern hemisphere, as we know, that the day length was the minimum, and sun goes at the farthest southern position on that day. It is always called winter solstice. So on that day, the shade created by any structure will be longest one. So on that day, the DLI was calculated, and because of this DLI design or DLI modeling, we can choose different types of crops as per the agrivoltaic system. For example, if you think about the agrivoltaic system of the France or Germany, whatever I have shown in my second or third slide, in those design, the DLI map will be quite different from the DLI map whatever we generate here, because if you can remember, in their design there is a lot of gap between the PV modules. So they have actually given some space for the PV generation and also for agrivoltaic generation. Now we will come to the economics part, and I am not going into the detail of different economics calculated because it will take long time. I have calculated based on this life cycle cost analysis. Life cycle cost, the land is 1 hectare, capacity is double row 400 kilowatt, because we have actually for the agrivoltaic system, we have given a space of 100 kilowatt to the agriculture. Otherwise, for a conventional solar power plant, in 1 hectare, we can install 500 kilowatt capacity. But in the agrivoltaic system, we have compromised 100 kilowatt for agriculture. So we have given some gap. For 400 kilowatt, life cycle is 25 years, and these are the cash outflow for ground mounted PV system. Then for replacement cost of inverter, then repair and maintenance cost, then cash outflow for crop cultivation. For example, in the best model, we have chosen that movement during Kharif and Isabkul during Rabi crops. So these are all the cash outflow. Then in the annual generation part, the 4 kilowatt hour per day per kilowatt system with an 1% decrease per year, we have assumed that 5,84,000 kilowatt hour of energy can be generated from 1 hectare. And if we see the electricity sale price, I have assumed there as 5 rupees, but in our state in Rajasthan it is now 3.19 rupees, because as per the RESCO or purchase power agreement document, it is 3.19 rupees, and sometimes in some state it may be quite somewhat high, but we take an average of 5 rupees per kilowatt hour. Then cash inflow will be 29 lakhs 20,000, and cash inflow from crop it is 80,000. So we cannot expect a big amount of income from the agriculture part. It is obvious, because we cannot compare the inflow from crop component with the inflow from the PV component, because PV generation electricity price is quite high. But if we introduce some cash crops instead of Mugbin and Isabkul, we can always introduce some cash crop, and it is much a researchable issue now, that what are the different cash crops we can introduce with the agrivoltaic system, so that we can increase our much more income, because it is fixed now 29 lakhs 20,000 rupees. It is fixed from PV generation for 25 years. We can increase the agricultural part also. So if we increase the agricultural income part, obviously the simple payback period, it is now 5.87 years. Discounted payback period is 10 years. And you can see that the life cycle is 25 years and discounted payback period is 10.4 years. So within 10 years or within 11 years, you can get the money invested on this system. So for the last 14 years, it will be on a total profitable basis. And I can just you can just note down here that all this cash inflow and outflow, all the future cost and all the future benefits are converted to a present worth. This is a basic principle of the life cycle cost analysis. All the present cost and all the future cost, all the future benefits will be converted to a present worth using a discounted rate and the interest rate. So in this calculation, all these things have been done, and after that, the discounted payback period is coming to around 11 years. And internal rate of return is 16%. So we can find that agrivoltaic system is a quite a profitable or the long-term venture or the profitable business. Apart from the economic part, the carbon footprint of the agrivoltaic model, it is actually savings this amount of carbon dioxide emission per hectare. You can see that annual generation or annual emission, the carbon footprint reduction is 479 ton carbon dioxide equivalent per hectare per year. Okay, because we are in 1 hectare 400 kilowatt we are installing, and generation is 4 kilowatt hour per day per kilowatt system. So annual generation will be 5,84,000, and here this equivalent energy of this energy, and if you consider an emission factor of the coal-based electricity is 0.82 kilo carbon dioxide equivalent per unit of electricity. So this much of emission we can check by installing the agrivoltaic system in our field. So around 479 tons of carbon dioxide equivalent per year per hectare we can reduce. So based on this total experiment, we proposed this model for outscaling of the system, because from the field experience and from discussions with the farmers, progressive farmers, and different types of stakeholders for the last 2 or 3 years, we found some obstacles to install this system in the agrivoltaic or in the farmers field. And the main obstacle was that high cost for installation of the system. As we see from the economics table of our agrivoltaic system, that it takes around, you can see it takes around 1,68,00,000 for 1 hectare installation. So you can see the capital investment required for installation of agrivoltaic system in 1 hectare. So it is not a feasible solution for every farmer of the country. So that's why we propose that why not we should bring farmers and the PV functionaries together in a single platform through RESCO model, which is very popular for the rooftop model, solar rooftop model. In the solar rooftop model, one RESCO company, which is empaneled RESCO company, contacted a owner of the house or owner of a building, and they invested on the roofs of that building, and there is a PPA document signed between both the parties, the house owner or the building owner and the RESCO company, that this is the system I will invest on your roof, and whatever energy I will produce, you have to purchase, or this should be